The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leisure Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
All right, welcome back here to the Weekend Sports Wrap. We're with the Duckman here live on Pulse FM. And we got special guest on now, Troy Warner from the Paracave Podcast. Troy, how are you going this weekend?
Oh, going fantastic at the moment, Duckman, and looking forward to the weekend of rugby league. Look, it's the third round of the NRL, and it's the third annual Multicultural Round in the NRL this weekend. And look, I'll just run through a few stats for you.
Yep.
The players of the NRL, I think both the NRLW and the NRL, representing 63 heritages. 30% of players are born overseas. 47% have one parent that was born overseas, and nearly half of the NRL and the NRLW have Pacifica heritage. So a few stats there about Multicultural Round.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting stat. So when we look back to the 80s and 90s when we were following, really the Polynesian players were seeing that were in the competition. Even the early 90s had Noah Nadruka at Canberra, John Fafita there, going through St George for years. There are Indigenous players. There's always been Indigenous players, but there's a high level of Indigenous players now. Polynesian, not too many. Newcastle really saw the influx of players like Sam Stewart and James Goulding and all these sorts of Kiwi guys that come in, and the Roosters, they got all these guys coming over from rugby and that sort of stuff, and Manly did too. Manly brought in Matthew Ridge and Darryl Williams and all these guys, Tony Iro, Kevin Iro. So there's stacks of guys like that. But most of them were Maori-based, I suppose, and there's a lot more Tongan Samoans and a whole lot of other heritage listed nations out there as well. So don't want to just streamline it to just Polynesians. There's a lot more than that. And it's diverse and it's good to see, really.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, as you said, there is a lot of Polynesian players in the competition, but you just have a look at the World Cup that happens every 4 years and you see the teams that play there. And, you know, I think at the last World Cup there was Jamaica playing rugby league. There's also Greece and obviously Ireland, and I mean Wales have played as well, France, England. But yeah, there's a lot. Thailand play it, Japan. So there is the Philippines as well. Look, the list just goes on and on and on. There's rugby league being played all around the world. So there is certainly a lot of, I guess you call it dissents, of players that play the game around the world. So, but yeah, particularly in the NRL, it's great to see all those cultures represented being played.
No, it definitely is. So particularly so it come in through Southeast Asia and other places as well, like Japan and Thailand, all that there. That's a really big step forward, right? Because the UK have always had rugby union, rugby league, so it's not hard for them to rope off a team in any particular format there. Rugby and soccer or football are big in Europe itself, so the countries that get rugby league nations like Liechtenstein's got rugby. I don't know if they're competing in the World Cup. They probably do, but they're not at a high level. But it doesn't mean that they can't be at a high level down the track. So they might well, down the future, be in rugby league World Cups and stuff like that too. So let's just wait and see what happens. But the growth of rugby league has been massive, and it's good to see. So you heard the interview that I did with Dave Moffat the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, little bits and pieces. I haven't finished it yet, but little
Yeah.
bits and pieces. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, so what did you think of his idea about trying to get a side up there, South Island Kia down based at Canterbury? That's an interesting proposition, and I was a little bit surprised there's 1.2 million people. I wasn't sure if there's more. I was probably expecting more because I thought the overall population's more, but I think New Zealand's population's only about 4 million, 4.5 million. So, and probably most of them are living in Australia. No, it's got about 4 million people there, I think, in New Zealand. So, got about 2.8 going by David's statistics, and about 1.2 million on the South Island. So, it would be a reasonable sized market to get. So, and it would be its own market. So, they would have commercial backing and all that sort of stuff as well, which could be a really strong proposition for the NRL, particularly with the massive Polynesian culture and that stuff. And as David said when I interviewed him, the rivalry with Auckland would be second to none, effectively, to be the same as like State of Origin. So there is a rivalry between Auckland and everything else in New Zealand. So I could see how that would be like a major driving and selling point that they're going to work on.
Yeah, look, I think there has been a lot of talk about the 18th, 19th and possibly 20th teams coming into the NRL, and there has been a lot of talk about a second New Zealand team coming in. So, look, it only makes sense that one down south comes in, I guess. We've obviously already got the Warriors. And look, if they can get the backing for it, I'm always have been a believer that if you've got enough money behind you and you can show that, then why not put in a bid and be allocated into an entry into the NRL? So, look, that would be great if they did have a second New Zealand side in the competition, especially for New Zealanders. I don't know how that would go with support, because I guess at the moment a lot of people support the New Zealand Warriors, but it'd be an interesting one. It'd be like the West Magpies and the Balmain Tigers when they merged. Would they still support the same team or whatever? But it certainly would be interesting if they did have like a little State of Origin series, because I've always thought that it would have been great to have a player like Jared McCracken play in State of Origin. He would have been built for that. So I guess when New South Wales and Queensland play, you could possibly have the North versus the South Islands play in like an Origin sort of series as well.
I think it should be done. So I think you'd be targeting weekends like the Anzac weekend or Easter weekend for things like that. You want to catch it probably not too early in the season, but you don't want to drag it till like later than halfway through the season either, because it'll lose its effectiveness. So and you could almost make it like an NRL superstar thing. So fan-based voting for your sides, or maybe they don't even have to go to that degree. Maybe there's enough quality players in both to do both. So that's there's good, strong options there, right? So I like it. I think it would work. I think it's a little bit more logical than the PNG thing, only logistically, because PNG, for them to get up, I believe that like the Australian government's supposed to be funding it. So like I think there's like red flags going up there straight away. Like I don't think that needs to happen. If you need to want to have an entity, you should be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and if you can't, you probably shouldn't have a team. So that is as simple as that. No, it's not being derogatory to any team, but if you can't fund your own operation, well, you might need a little bit of support. But if you have to be 100% funded by the governing body or by anybody else, you probably shouldn't be in the comp.
Yeah, look, there has been a little bit of talk about that, and look, if you ask people that live in Western Australia or South Australia or Tasmania about a PNG team, or if you're funding a PNG team in the National Rugby League, I don't think they'd be too happy about that. They'd probably like to see the money go somewhere else. Look, PNG, it's the National Sport Rugby League. It'd be great for them to have a team in the NRL, but I think there's also been a lot of talk about like security playing games up there, and whether they actually play a lot of games in PNG, so you couldn't really have a real PNG based team. I think they're all trying to work on that, but as you said, I think somehow they need to be self-funded. Look, if they want to have a little bit of help, not by about the amount that they're putting in, the Australian government, but if they have a little bit of help, possibly, but they should be self-funded and have the backing behind them. And look, I know that they have said that PNG are probably maybe the favourites to get the 18th licence, but just with everything about that, I just don't think it'll happen. I mean, we see the Prime Minister's 13 teams go over there and play, and look, they just get swarmed and mobbed and stuff like that. So, I mean, could you imagine if Penrith Panthers goes up there and plays in PNG? Look, it'd be absolute chaos, I think. So, there's good and bad for a team in PNG.
Yeah, that's right. So I think they need to look at it more like putting them in with a team like as a joint partner and perhaps filtering through onto Queensland Cup might not be a bad option. So pretty sure I did it a couple of years ago. But give them a legitimate, put something on the ground, get something running and see how they go logistically and managing security and all that stuff. And then if it's like looks good and viable, then down the track, like 10 years or something, you could revisit that. It doesn't need to get buried, the idea, but at the moment, that's not on the top of my list of like the fact to pick three sides, because if you don't pick one, you may as well pick three. Don't pick an even number and then have an odd number of teams still, unless it's like 21 or something like that, and you're going to go for conferences of 7. But that doesn't make sense completely. You'd pick either one or pick 3. So you'd have to be looking at any sort of Perth franchise if they've got a side. There'd be another New Zealand team in that list there. So David Moffat's side is 100% viable and in play, because you need to be looking at the South Island really to service both areas in New Zealand. And then the other option is potentially one of these central Queensland teams, or north of Brisbane, south of Townsville. So there's areas there. A few people told me they should look at and explore as well, like Sunshine Coast, and potentially if they got up, or Ipswich Jets or whatever, so like somewhere west of Brisbane or central Queensland or whatever. So there's options. There's and good options too that are viable. And I think they need to get revisited. So quite probably before Papua New Guinea side does. Yeah, no,
I agree. I mean, I've been a big sort of advocate for a Perth team to come back into the competition. So I think the NRL will be, they should be looking at that. That's for sure. I mean, it works perfectly for broadcasters and the like, and that was a big reason. And they wouldn't let the same thing happen that happened to them, the Western Reds. They wouldn't let them go broke, and they stay in there. But they're crying out. They've got competitions over there. As you said, definitely the New Zealand option looks good, and to have that North Island, South Island teams, and probably a Central Queensland team, maybe around the Bundaberg area, possibly, if they could fund themselves, I guess. But probably not another one in Brisbane, I don't think. But probably another one in Queensland, that's for sure.
Yeah, you don't want another. I wouldn't say you want another Brisbane team at the moment. I wouldn't say you would write that off either, but I don't think that would be my first option, right? So you'd have a look at a couple of other options and see what your best regional Queensland option is, because you want to build the regional hubs, right? So, and the regional Queensland, they had a lot of very, very good players over the years, play State of Origin and come through the New South Wales Rugby League, the Queensland Cup, and also the NRL. So that's an option, right? That'd be right up there as well.
Yeah, that's it. They definitely have to do their research and find out what the best location would be, their best bang for buck, and putting in 3 new teams. Definitely, they'd want their return on investment. So we'll just have to watch this space, and who knows when that's going to happen. Yeah,
for sure. All right, so we'll get into the matches so far this weekend. So the Panthers last night took on the Broncos, and Panthers were very good to start off with a flat. I only caught the end of the game because I was in TAFE. but they got up 34 points to 12. They were 34-2, up 34 points to 2. Then the Broncos scored, and I was trying to work out the Broncos were on 34 because I couldn't tell straight away. And I realised I was the Panthers, but they looked like they put the Q in the rack. They took Isaiah Yeo off and Nathan Cleary. Seems to be some sort of hamstring problem there or something like that, or maybe it's just a twinge and they're just saving him. Then they put on old mate they signed back from West Tigers again, and Dane Laurie, and it was all right from what I can tell. But Panthers they're just going through the motions at the end of the game. Broncos got a couple of decent tries. The whole Reece Walsh thing, so head clash, has got a fractured orbital or whatever the fracture is in his face. What do you think should be happening with that? So it was if I look at it from a rugby union hat, you have a direct head contact, you're probably looking, whether it's incidental or not, in rugby union, you'd be looking at a red card for that or a minimum yellow card and a suspension at the end of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, personally, I think that's ridiculous. It's an accidental head clash. It happens in rugby league. That's players don't go out to head clash each other, but I think they were, it was an accidental head clash. Injuries like this are going to happen, unfortunately, in rugby league, and it's just one of those things. And look, there's no way the game should have been stopped and Taylor May put on report and then not sin bin or whatever, but even he shouldn't have even been up for any charges. If they wanted to go down that angle, I think maybe they probably should have maybe waited till after the game and said, look, we're going to put you on report. As I said, not stop the game. But it's an accidental head clash. These things happen. Dale Finucane, I think, last year got suspended for what he thought was an accidental head clash for 2 weeks, which, it's ridiculous. I mean, we see like head clashes all the time. We see players with their heads split open here and there, and look, nothing happens about that. I think maybe because it was a grand final rematch. Maybe it was Reece Walsh. Maybe there's a bit of an uproar. I know. I think Kevin Walters has come out and said that maybe something should have happened. But look, it's rugby league at the end of the day, and unfortunately, these things are going to happen. Reece has now got can't fly back to Brisbane with a fractured cheekbone. I think he's got so. He's going to have he probably would have had it maybe today, a long drive back to Brisbane, and now looking at about 4 to 6 weeks out of the game. So a massive blow for Brisbane. They were always going to do it tough going into this game with Adam Reynolds not playing. Payne Haas got ruled out, I think, the day before the game or on game day. So 2 big losses there. They were always going to do it tough. And Penrith, they just rolled on like a machine, and 22-2 at half-time. Richie Bena's favourite scorer, I think. They just rolled on, and they never looked like they were going to lose this game. As you said, they took Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo off, and why not? You're in the luxury of doing that. The Broncos did score 2 late tries, but they were never going to win the game.
Yeah, that's right. So they had too much work to do. So, and Penrith put Q on the rack. They'd well and truly won the game by the time Broncos started coming back into it. The game tonight, so I can't remember who I tipped. I think I tipped the Warriors because the Warriors were at home, and the Warriors were up 6-0. Now the Raiders are up 10-6, 60 minutes in. So you're watching the game. What do you think of the game at the moment?
Yeah, well, look, the first half was a bit of a tough tussle. Adam Fanua-Blake got the first try, so good to see a front rower get the first try of the game. But then Canberra got the next try to Matt Timoko, and just after 14 minutes after half time, Nick Kotrick has just scored, so they've given Canberra the lead. So, look, this was going to be an interesting game because the Warriors, even though they had been 0 from 2, they probably looked like the best team that have been 0-2. And look, this one was back at home. Well, not actually at home. It was in New Zealand, but it's at Apollo Project Stadium in Christchurch, so not Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland. So they've taken this game to Christchurch. And the Raiders, they've been the surprise packets, I think, in these first 2 weeks. They've won both their games against Newcastle and the Tigers, but they've played good footy in there. So they're showing it at the moment that they're giving it to the Warriors, and there's only 19 minutes to go. So this could still be anybody's game.
Yeah, I think so. And the Raiders, you can only beat who you got to play against. I think the Warriors are a pretty good side, really. So they'll click into gear eventually. It's going to be another tough one. Looks like they might drop points here. Pretty sure I did tip on them. So we'll see what happens with that one. The other game tonight, so it's got NRL's favourite player against my favourite NRL player. So Latrell Mitchell's the fans' favourite. Yeah, so Joey Manu against so the guy who refuses to do interviews with me when I hit him up before. So he did one with Triple M. Didn't do such a good job with that one. So maybe it was probably a good thing that I did skip the interview with Latrell. Roosters against Rabbitohs. I genuinely think the Roosters will win because the Roosters are in better form. But they looked really flat last week. Manly tapped them up pretty good. And once they were behind and looked like they were not going to come back in, but when they got behind enough, they were done, all right? So they weren't going to come back into it. The Rabbitohs haven't seen them fire into gear at the moment. Josh Mansour come out and did the podcast with James Graham through the week and highlighted a couple of problems going on with the Rabbitohs, which probably were getting brought to attention last year when Jason Demetriou couldn't get the side into the finals. They just looked, I think I said it to you later in the year, that the Rabbitohs looked a bit old and a little bit flat. So I haven't seen them turn it around and show anything different so far this year.
Yeah, look, it's a very interesting situation at the moment with the Rabbitohs. People think that they may be a club in crisis at the moment, not only with the Latrell Mitchell radio interview, but they've also dropped Lachlan Ilias as well after 2 weeks of the season. Look, the Book of Feuds game, it's these two always have great clashes between each other, and this one's going to be an interesting one at Allianz Stadium, or maybe as some people call it, Trellianz Stadium, I don't know. But the Rabbitohs, they're 0 from 2 and in 16th position on the ladder at the moment. They'll want to get this win because the more games they drop, they're going to get away from that top 8. The Roosters, as you said, they did look a little bit flat last week, but Manly, they're a good side and really gave it to them. But I don't think they would have hit panic stations. They had a good win in the first round. Luke Keary's out tonight due to HIA concussion protocols. So Sandon Smith comes in. There's a lot of raps on this young kid, and potentially if he shines in this number 6 jersey tonight and in the next maybe couple of games, potentially either Sam Walker or Luke Keary may find themselves struggling to find themselves in the team. Jared Hargreaves, he plays his 300th game in the NRL. So an amazing effort from a front rower. Whether you love him or you hate him, it's still a great effort to play 300 games. And he played obviously six or seven games for Manly before transferring to the Roosters. And I believe if he plays another 14 or 15 games for the Roosters, he'll be the number 1 all-time Roosters player. So an amazing effort there from Jared. I think Cameron Murray is also celebrating a milestone as well. I think it could be his 150th, but yeah, so congratulations to him. Angus Crichton comes back into the side on the interchange bench with Connor Watson, so their first games in first grade for the Roosters this year. And look, an interesting one at number 18, Michael Jennings. He's the 18th man for the Roosters tonight. He's
47 years old.
Yes, well, I think 35 actually, but he has been out of the game for 4 years due to a drug ban and signed with the Roosters on a train and trial deal, and the NRL have allowed him to be potentially playing tonight, but he's 18th man. So, look, this is going to be a cracker of a game, especially after this one. And these always are, so maybe some dramas will happen. Jack Whiten as well, it plays his first game for the South Sydney Rabbitohs tonight as well.
Yeah, I think it's good that he's going to get his first game for the Rabbitohs, and it's going to be a loss, so it's going to make him feel like he's back to Canberra, and the move was all worth it to play with his mates. So they're out of touch, Rabbitohs. I wouldn't have dropped Lachlan Ilias. I heard how that went down through the week. Apparently, the players said to Jason Demetrio, he's not really fitting in, probably need to drop the guy. Then they dropped him, so see you later, he's out. Now Jack Whiten's back in. So if that's what's happening, Jason Demetrio cannot coach that team anymore. So I don't know if it is or isn't, but yeah, there's going to be problems with that. Michael Jennings is supposed to be 36, and apparently they can't play if you're on train trial contract before round 10. So the Roosters actually upgraded him and put him in the top 30 so that he's available now. So got him in there for experience and mentoring with the players. He will play games for sure. So if he plays a good game, he'll play a fair bit more. So he's not this.
It'll be an interesting one because, I mean, as you just said, he's 36 years old, but he has had 4 years out of the game. So I don't know what that does to your body and what it does being an NRL player. So who knows? It could be fresh and fit, ready to go.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll see. So he won't be carrying any external injuries, and the big thing will be match conditioning. So I imagine he'll be up for it and be able to do it. He's been professional before; he knows what he's got to do. Next game, the Bulldogs up against the Titans tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I picked the Titans for this game, so I just think they're in a better place at the moment than what the Bulldogs are. I think the Bulldogs are pretty close to getting it together and starting to get some wins. But I just think the Titans, if their good players play good, like Tino, Suamali, and also David Fafita and all other guys that they've got available to them, I've seen the Bulldogs side the other day. I think the Titans will actually beat the Bulldogs, so I'd be surprised. I think there'll be a lot of points in the game. I think it'll be 30 points to something, or potentially like that. I'd be surprised if Des Hasler lets his side roll over and not defend hard, but he might take what he gets just to make sure that they're competitive at the moment.
That's an interesting take coming into this game because the Titans, they got flogged by the Dragons in round one and they had the bye last week. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go against the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, look, a lot of people said that they'll be down near the bottom of the ladder as well again this year, but they're actually favourites in this game. It's been played at Belmore Sports Ground, and look, I remember back in the 90s when Multicultural Round was happening. Parramatta used to play the Bulldogs, and I think one day, I think it was on an Easter Monday, I think it was, they had Multicultural Round, and the Bulldogs actually smashed the Eels on that day. So could be a good omen playing back at Belmore. But the Bulldogs, they lost to Parramatta in the first round. They lost to the Sharks in the second round. Although they did run the Sharks into that game for a long time. They were in that game for about 65 minutes or so. Just fell away in the end. The Sharks scored some tries and got away with the victory. So that they were slowly on the improve. Kieran Foran comes back for the Titans, so that's a good in for them. And look, having the week off last week could possibly be a good thing. I'm sure Desi would have, with all these years of experience, known what to do after that round one loss. But I tipped the Bulldogs in this game. Yeah,
so this was a tough one to pick because they both haven't had a win yet. And yeah, until the Titans get a few games in them, you're not really going to know where they're at. But they haven't changed heaps. They haven't dropped anybody real significantly out of their team for this year. So I think Des Hasler, unless he's out of touch with the NRL now, will be able to turn it around. Like I said, I just think the Bulldogs project they've got is bigger than what the Titans have got to do at the moment. It probably also will get better results, but it's more long term. I don't think they'll get the win. The next game here, so it's the game of the team that don't have people that don't want to play for them against the Cowboys. So Zach Lomax doesn't want to play for the Dragons anymore, neither does Ben Hunt. I would say they can both leave, but they'd be released and not able to play for anybody. I'd make them sign some stupid deal like that, where that'll be what happens. No worries, you can leave anytime you want, but the deal is going to be you leave like that and you're not available to play rugby league anywhere at all. Get another job. So thanks for coming. So that'd be how I'll be signing off. And if they didn't sign it off and agree to it and agree to do all this different stuff, it just wouldn't happen. So Ben Hunt, where would he even go if he left the Dragons?
Well, I think he's come out and said that he's going to stay at the Dragons now. Sort of put that to bed at the start of the year. The one that possibly is going to be a distraction for the Dragons at the moment is Zach Lomax, who's playing on the wing. He doesn't. All reports he doesn't want to play on the wing. He wants to play in the centre position. But Moses Sully and Jack Bird are playing there at the moment. So, look, that's an interesting one. Watch his space. There has been talk that he's been linked to Parramatta. Parramatta, I think, asked the Dragons if they could get him this season, legitimately, not illegally. But they said no, he's going to be staying there. So that could potentially be a distraction throughout the year if it doesn't get sorted quicker than quick. Look, Luciano Leilua, he used to play for the Cowboys, so he's now playing for the Dragons, so he's playing against his old club, so that'll be an interesting one. I think he may have been in a similar situation as well. He wasn't enjoying it at the Cowboys and possibly wanted to come back to New South Wales, so he's landed back at the Dragons. And look, the Cowboys, they've been playing some good footy. They've got a couple of wins. They're sitting in, up near the top of the ladder, second at the moment. And another away game for them. And they're showing that they should be a top 8 side. They missed out last year, and they want to get back in that top 8. The Dragons, they played really well in round 1, disappointing last week against the Dolphins, and they'll want to turn it around. This game being played at Netstrata Jubilee Stadium, Cogra Oval for the purists. I think I tipped the Cowboys in this game.
Yeah, I'll tip the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys could not just do it. See, the Dragons, I've seen them play too much the last couple of years, but even if they're winning, they've played too many games where they get in front a little bit, and they don't close the game out, so they end up getting tapped up at the end of the game. So I think the Cowboys have got 25 to 30 points in them. I'm not sure the Dragons have got 30-plus points in them. I'm not sure they've fixed their defensive frailties yet, and one of them would be the handbag that wants to leave Zach Lomax. So if he wants to go, like he's been determined to go since before Shane Flanagan came along. Now that he's playing on the wing, he's not happy, but everyone reckons he's playing the best he has for a long time.
Well, he had a great game in round 1. I think he scored a try and had nearly 200 run meters or up near that figure. So he had a great game in round 1. But I think the whole Dragons side, they had a disappointing game in round 2.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I don't think it'll be a massive blowout, but I do expect the Cowboys are going to put somewhere between 20 to 30 points on. So the Dragons are going to need to be up for it and go hammer and tong with it as well, or we're going to get left behind. The next game is the Cellar Dwellers, West Tigers, up against the side I think should be in the bottom 5 that's strangely up near the top. The Sharks are playing pretty good, actually. I think they're going to get the win pretty easy here. Benji Marshall's going to have a few hard weeks. He's going to have to wait, I think, until they get a game against someone that's out of touch, right? So, like a Knights, like maybe the Dragons. If they could play the Rabbitohs soon, that actually might be good for them, right? Because the Rabbitohs are out of touch.
Yeah, look, going to be an interesting game, this one. I think a few people have actually tipped the Tigers to win this one. Whether that's the Leichhardt Oval factor or not, I don't know. But look, it's back at Leichhardt Oval, and it's been, I think, during the news last week or this week that after 2025 there might not be any more Leichhardt Oval NRL games. So that's an interesting one. But look, the coaching criticism of Benji Marshall not being a 24/7 coach, I don't really agree with that. I think that's a bit sort of made up and ridiculous talk. That shouldn't be a distraction in this game. Justin Olam comes back to make his club debut for the Tigers in the centre position, so a little bit of experience there. Interesting, they've gone for Aiden Caesar at halfback, starting halfback in this game, with Jaden Sullivan dropping back to the 14 position. I think most rugby league fans thought that Aiden Caesar would start the year at halfback. Look, they've only had one game against Canberra, so they had the bye in the first round. So the Sharks, on the other hand, they have been playing some good footy. I mean, they only played the Bulldogs, and I can't remember who they played in the first round, but 2 victories in a row. The Warriors, sorry.
Yeah, the Warriors in New Zealand.
Yeah, so that's a hard road trip to win over there. So they pulled that one off, and they're playing some good footy at the moment. So this interesting game, this one, but I think I tipped the Sharks to win this one.
Yeah, so I think the Sharks will win. So the problem is Benji Marshall's putting all his confidence in young guys. I've got no problem with that. But you can't start 2 young halves in that. It just cannot do it. I just don't think that works for you when you're trying to build the side. Aiden Caesar, he wasn't in the NRL last year and all that sort of stuff, but he's got the experience. It just played that completely wrong. I reckon he's stuffed the confidence, that young guy now, so he'll be all at sea now where he's at. He won't be too sure what's going on. And that's inexperience. He's an inexperienced coach. I wonder how many games Benji Marshall's going to get before he gets potentially people go, well, I've got to turf him. But if he doesn't do well this year, I reckon he'll last the whole year. He's going to have problems next year if he does the same thing. So they're going to have big problems.
Look, I think he's only coached one game and he's getting all this criticism at the moment. It's a tough team to coach, the Tigers. Obviously, in the past, the last few seasons, they've got the wooden spoon and they've had their off-field dramas with their CEO and their board director, the chairman, I should say. So they've had those dramas. They've had some other dramas with recruitment managers as well, but hopefully they're all out of the way and Benji can try and coach this team. Look, he's only coached one game, so it is a young side, and it's going to take a bit of time, but I don't think he'll be gone after this year.
Yeah, I'm not worrying the whole one game thing because he's pretty much run it last year as well, so I'm letting him wear that cap with this year as well. He needs to do something or he's going to have problems at the end of the year. Why they signed him for 5 years, I have no idea. So that just is not logical.
That is a big, I guess you could say, concern for a 5-year contract for a brand new coach. Maybe a 2-year deal to start off with and then see how you go. But yeah, definitely, you're right there. Yeah. A 5-year deal, that's massive for a new coach.
Yeah, 2 years with the option is probably a good way to feel his way in. So this is why I think he's got more pressure, and I think they're giving him some credit for last year, but they've got a fair bit of work to do. The Eels up against the Seagulls, that is on Sunday. I think the Seagulls will probably get that, even though they're going to Parramatta, purely because they're just in really red-hot form. I think Parramatta looked a little bit flat last week against Parramatta. They looked like they couldn't get going once they got back into the game and got in front. I think, I don't know what happens, not like they got stage fright, but they just didn't look like they had the ability to click it up an extra gear when they needed to, and Penrith did. So,
well, here we go again. It's Manly and Para, the old cliche from the 80s, Tui's ads, I think it was. Great jingle, that one. But yeah, look, Parramatta, they're back at home. They've got a reasonable record at home. They had a reasonable game against Penrith last week and really stuck it to Penrith. They were going into the half-time break in the lead. and they just couldn't get the job done. Although there were some controversies out of that game, and one of those controversies is Bailey Simonson. He's not playing in this game due to the 11-day concussion stand down. So Blaze Talagi is a young gun. He's making his debut for Parramatta. I think player number 844. So he comes into the side. Morgan Harper has been named at wing, but potentially could play centre. He's playing against his old club, so that should be interesting as well. And Kelma Tuolagi as well. He's been named. I'm not too sure if he'll play because he supposedly, I think, went off with a dislocated shoulder last week. So interesting one naming that one. But one player on the Manly side who'll be looking to get, I guess, not redemption, but show what he was worth is Nathan Brown for Manly. He's playing at Manly these days. Celebrated, I think, his 150th last week, and he's been a bit of... Mark Carroll calls him the Energizer Bunny, coming off the bench and just runs off the back fence, and he has been doing that in the first two games. He's just been hitting it up, a couple of offloads, but that was potentially his problem late in his career at Parramatta, maybe trying to push the offload and be a bit of a ball player, where he's more should be just a runner of the ball and run it hard like that. But Hamoli Olakawatu as well in the back row. He's a massive unit. He's been carving sides up on the edges. Tommy Turbo, he hasn't scored a try yet this year. Maybe this weekend might be the time. But look, it's going to be a great game. Manly and Para games are usually always great to watch, especially 80s rivals, and even today. Will the Manly fans travel? Who knows? But I'm tipping...
they won't.
No.
They won't go past Pittwater.
Yeah, so, obviously I'm tipping Parramatta in this one to win.
Yeah, so I just think this is probably the best form Manly's been in since about probably between 2008 or 2007 and about 2013 or 14. They're very slick at the moment, and I don't think their side's super flash. I think they're pretty good, but they could be better, right? So they're someone that's got improvement in them, and they're on the way up. So that will be good for them to see how they go. The next, I want to point out a fact too with Simonson getting injured. So Simonson got injured last week. Reece Walsh got injured this week, and one of the Melbourne players got injured the week before for Penrith. So who do you reckon they're going to take out next week from the Roosters? So I'll put up a couple of volunteers. Joey Manu can be number one if anyone's thinking about it.
I honestly do not understand your grudges with Joey Manu.
I've seen him fake injuries, right, and get tries. And one of them was against St George and one of them was against West. They stood back, and I think he had a legit injury. They let him run, right? Oh, okay, we won't put the hit on. He ran off and scored a try, and then they're like, oh, he can't do that. Well, that's your fault. Tackle the guy, right? Yeah. So he's done a couple of things like that, have just grinded my gears, right? Like, if you're going to do things, it's nothing that says it's not in the spirit of the game, but that's not right. If you don't want to get belted, it's like when Reece Walsh, Kalen Ponga got belted by the Canberra player last year. That was
Reece. That was Reece.
Yeah, it was Reece Walsh, yeah. So it's completely legal, did everything legal, put the hit on. People are like, but it was the end of the game. Yeah, whatever. Look, there's nothing stopping him from running up the field and trying to score a try either. So the tackle was fair as legit, wasn't high. Get over it. So in my opinion, just seen Joey Manu play on a couple of these things. So he is a very talented player. I don't reckon the Roosters playing him in the right position. I do think he is a 5'8". He probably likes playing out in the centres because he'll be the second guy to get the ball, and that gives him room and options. But for all money, I think he's a 5'8". If not that, potentially he's a fullback. So I don't think the Roosters are utilising him right, but he's got a pretty stacked up team. So where do you play the guy? But yeah, St George, when he did the try against St George, went, and I'm done with you, right? So,
okay.
but that's the St George attitude thing, right? He looks injured, I'll hang off him. Oh, well, he scored a try in the corner and you lost the game from it. So good move, that one. So let's try and do that again. The next game, because they're burning about this still.
Okay.
The Knights up against the Storm. I actually think the Storm are probably the best side in the NRL at the moment, and they're going to grind so many teams in the ground this year defensively, even though Jerome Hughes is supposed to be out. What's going on with Cameron Munster? I heard something about Cameron Munster being out, or he's injured, or something wrong with him in Melbourne. Don't know what's going on. Not too sure, but I would expect that Melbourne is still going to be able to get the business done here. So they are like pretty resilient side at the moment. Ryan Pappenhausen's still on his recovery path, so he's still, I think he's coming back through the lower grades, still playing games off the bench and that.
No, he's starting at fullback.
There you go.
Ryan Pappenhausen, he started the year in round 1 and 2, so he's slowly getting back. I think a lot of sort of responsibility is going to be on his shoulders this weekend, because, as you said, Cameron Munster is out. I believe it's a groin injury, a bit of a slip in the shower in Fiji in the trial game over there that they had. Has flared it back up, and I think he's a bit of a week-to-week sort of prospect. But Jerome Hughes is also out as well, suspended for 1 week for pushing a referee in last week's game against the Warriors. So they've got some inexperienced halves, Jonah Pezzett and Tyron Wishart at halfback. So that's going to be an interesting one. So for Ryan Pappenhausen, he's probably going to have a lot of experience. Not expectation, but he's going to be. He's got the experience and going to be one of those players that leads the Melbourne team around, I guess, and Harry Grant as well. For Newcastle, this is an important game. They're 0 from 2 as well, and they're back at home. And I think they beat Melbourne last year. I'm not 100% sure, but Jackson Hastings is the big story this week. He got dropped from the halfback position, and Jack Cogger has come into that position and to partner Tyson Gamble. So that will be an interesting one to see how they go. He was the second halfback that got dropped during the week after Lachlan Ilias, and this is an important game for Newcastle. So I think I actually tipped Newcastle to win this game.
Yeah, so, I picked the Storm. I wasn't bothered about who was out. I think the Knights are a couple of weeks off getting it together. My second favourite coach there, Adam O'Brien, he's trying hard to take him down, clutch defeat from the jaws of victory. He's doing all right so far too. Stuffing with the team early in the year. He told Jackson Hastings he's got the team, run the team. Then he tells him, I'll drop you and you can go to New South Wales Cup. The guy's all over the place. Now he doesn't know what he's done wrong in particular. They haven't been playing particularly good, but you can't pin it all on him. Tyson Gamble, I'm not sure I'd work. So that will happen now with Jack Cogger. But a couple of people said they think that Jack Cogger and Hastings should probably play together and play Gamble off the bench as a 14 and rotate them, try to get all three on the field at the same time at some period of time and maybe move stuff around. So I would be interested to see how that would work and where you'd play Tyson Gamble if you had to, because they've got two halfbacks in on the field. It could always move Jackson Hastings around, but if you do that, why have him as the halfback then? So why would you get him to be a halfback at the start of the year? If you give him the crack, why take it off him after a couple of rounds? Well, I didn't think he was that bad, but that instability, that's what's going to burn the Knights.
Yeah, as you said, certainly it is a interesting one with both the halfbacks being dropped for this weekend, Ilias and Hastings, only after two rounds. It's almost like, well, you've trained the whole off season, I guess, with them at halfback, and then after 2 weeks you're demoting them. So interesting one there, but I guess I think Jack and Jackson are very similar players, I think, and I don't know how they would go as a half 5'8" combination. And so, look, it'll be interesting to see how they go. But yeah, Newcastle, they definitely need this win, and they'll do it tough against the Melbourne side, who, as you said, have been one of the form teams of this competition at the moment.
Yeah. So what's going on with Jack Cogger? 100%. They're picking him on his grand final form from last year, how he played with Penrith. Like, he played very straight last year for Penrith, not just in the grand final. When he come on, he doesn't mind attacking the line, going straight up, whereas Jerome Luai, as a lateral player, he'll go forward and then across the field, right, trying to find space for inside runners, under runners and stuff like that. I think that perhaps that's how Jackson Hastings plays a bit too, and they're trying to get a different angle runner. So I thought Tyson Gamble plays a bit like Jackson Hastings as well. So, yeah, it's odd, right? So we'll see how that all fits anyway. All right, what have you got coming up anyway this week for the Parramatta podcast?
Well, just before I go there, it's full time in the Warriors-Raiders game. It was 18-10 to the Warriors, so a couple of late tries in the
They got up, thankfully, so there you go. I'm 2 for 2 this weekend so far. Pretty happy with that.
Yep.
The Warriors were going to get it right sooner or later, right? So it's only a matter of time, even if they had to drop today's game. I wouldn't write the Raiders off, but because if they can go over to New Zealand and do that, they'd be looking pretty good at the moment too, because there's quite a few teams that are out of form in the NRL, so you could get a bad patch here and have a bounce of 4 or 5 losses. You could also potentially have a patch of 4 or 5 wins in a row too.
Yeah, that's it. And Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he scored his first try in the NRL since 2021 as well to lock up the win for the Warriors. This week on the podcast, at the moment, I'll have a replay chat of or especially over the weekend anyway, I'll have a replay of this chat coming out, and also I have what I call Sugar and Spice and All Things Nice, episode number 3, where I team up with a gentleman by the name of George from the Quick Hands podcast, and we go through a few of the issues of the week in rugby league. So recorded that before this chat. Also on Sunday morning, I'll have a Eels Manly game day preview with Justin Horro as well. Recorded that a couple of days ago, so that'll come out on Sunday morning as well to get you into the mood for the game on the weekend. And at the moment, I've got an interview with David Gatt as well. The name might not sound familiar, but he's a Parramatta Eels fan, but he is also one of the trekkers who will do the trek from the SCG Sydney to Newcastle this year for the Mark Hughes Foundation with the Big 3 trek. So he's done 2 of them. This will be his 3rd one. So it's a pretty interesting story. A few former football players also have done that trek as well. But unfortunately, a few years ago, tragically, he lost his wife Amanda to brain cancer. So that has spurred him on to do these treks and these walks. So that interview is out now. So we talk about a little bit about his support for the Parramatta Eels from over the years, but we also dive into his treks as well and why it means so much for him to do that. So that one's out now as well.
Yeah, there you go. Looking forward to them. They'll be good chats indeed. There we go. Troy, thank you very much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it, and look forward to watching rugby league and having a chat with you on Sunday night.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, definitely going to enjoy the rugby league across the weekend, and I may be in transit on Sunday night after the Eels-Sea Eagles game at the time that we're supposed to talk, so I'll let you know about that one anyway.
Yeah, we'll touch base through today and see how you're travelling, and just let me know how it's all going.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Duckman. Right. Enjoy your footy.
Too easy, no worries. Thanks, Troy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parramatta Podcast. See you next time.